Welcome, Tony.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Tony. Let's jump right in. Boy, I gotta say, from meeting so many different people who have been involved in adaptive sport, man, you got a lesson really fast and hard. I mean, within 2 years, you're playing on one of the epicenter teams in the league. The Sharp Shadow, which was then Sharp Edge. You meet Troy McGurk and so many of the superstars. What was it like coming into the league so fresh and meeting superstars like that?
And it was overwhelming, to be honest. Like, I had no real experience in adaptive sports. I was pretty recently injured. I moved to California about a year post injury, so I was brand new to all of that. And to come in and just see the athleticism, the professionalism, the knowledge that those guys had, and then to kind of get to know all of them in a personal level was incredible. So I couldn't have asked for a better situation to kind of learn from and to kind of be raised in that second life you get. So
so we talked about Troy McGurk, but also there was Andy Cohn. Between the two of them, they compiled a pretty nice medal count. They both had golds. They both had Andy went on to score a couple of bronzes with the team. Were those guys welcoming to you as a new guy, as a newbie on the team? Did they take you under their wing, or was it a little bit rougher than that? They kind of push you around.
Yeah, if you know anything about most team sports, able-bodied and also on the adaptive side, you're of course welcomed into the teams, but it's never easy, man. They're gonna harass you. They're gonna make you work for every inch of respect that you can get on the court. So I had a blast trying to earn that from those guys and the rest of the team in San Diego when I started, and just loved being a part of that group. So,
I remember talking to Troy, and I asked Troy what was some of the elements of what made that team so successful, and he said they were maybe one of the Sharp is what I'm referring to. In San Diego is they really took the sport more seriously. Like, it got to the point where they realized that not being in the bar at night after the matches and getting back to the room, getting adequate rest, studying the playbooks, knowing who they were going against, those were the components that brought that team together and elevated them to a higher level.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true for that group of guys. That was maybe a little before my time. When I got there, they had just come off back-to-back national titles with an import at that time and stuff. And they had kind of taken a new approach to the team, just trying to train more of their local guys and take a redirect there. So we really got a chance to. There was myself and a few others that really got a chance to kind of cut our teeth with that team. And while it was competitive, they were we were with them training as much as possible and all of that. They made time to have a good time and kind of showed us the community off the court as well, which was definitely appreciated at the time, and kind of helped me build a friends group in a time and a place that I needed it. So,
Tony, you told me you're a midpoint, or were you playing as a 2 or a 2.5?
Yeah, so I actually when I first started, the first time I got classed as a 2, and then they of course saw you play a couple times. Then I got bumped up to a 2.5, and then shortly after that, the league had changed a few things within the classification system, so I actually got bumped up to a 3 for several years until they came back and redirected some of those rules, and I came back down to a 2.5. So, but I've been a 2.5 now for several years, and the last couple of times I've been classified, I've stuck with that. So,
when you fall into that little sweet spot, Tony, that makes it a little bit tougher to even start to think about Paralympic aspirations, because now, once again, you're falling into a big demographic, where a lot more guys are. You've got a few guys at the top, you got a few low pointers, and then right there in that sweet spot, 2, 2.5, 3, you got a lot of players. So did you think of yourself as a potential Paralympic player, or did you feel at any point maybe that was over your head, or was that an aspiration?
Yeah, I think definitely, definitely to be 100% honest, I felt like that was way over my head. I had some great mentors, and they were rooting me on, telling me, hey, you need to do this. You could be something someday. And I just didn't. One, I didn't have the confidence in myself. Being newly injured, and man, you just see the level of play that some of those guys have, and some of the function, and it's intimidating, and I really didn't see it. It didn't take on for me until I started to kind of understand my own skills, and then learn how to develop those, and kind of create my own style of play, my own game, that I really felt like I was confident in the skills and the type of player I could be.
So beyond the athletics and what it was that it did for you, you recognize that it played a major role in you being able to kick forward in life and definitely advance, just by virtue of playing sports. So you get back to KC, you move back basically to your hometown, and you see an opportunity to start to grow sports on your own. And you jump in and you start the Kansas City Revolution rugby team in 2015. What kind of undertaking was that? I mean, you come back, now you're no longer in a hotbed like San Diego, where there's a ton of people who are involved in adaptive sports. It's got to be a lot more work moving to a smaller community and trying to say, hey, let's go ahead and start a club here. Yeah. What was it like starting the Revolution?
It was something that was obviously incredibly important to me. I knew whenever I got hurt in 2008, there wasn't a lot of organized structure within adaptive sports in Kansas City. They had some random teams here and there. There wasn't a lot of information. This was kind of the beginning stages of social media and that sort of stuff. So those kind of interactions weren't really out there. So when I moved to California and played in San Diego, then I knew whenever the eventual plan was to move back to Kansas City that was something I really wanted to get started there. So while I took the initiative to kind of watch and learn to play the game, I was also watching how to I watched from the sidelines, try to sit as much as I could next to Troy and listen to him coach and listen to him direct players, and try to learn that aspect of it. I tried to ask questions about how they built their program, how they got funding, how they found players. All of those things were factors that we took into consideration. I tried to learn some of those aspects of growing a program. But whenever I came back to Kansas City, it's you don't have a lot of people that know what you're trying to do. So, I was fortunate enough to reach out to Ability KC, where I did some outpatient rehab, and I knew a few of the therapists there. And I was just lucky enough to get some people that wanted to come along the ride with me, and were willing to put in the work. And I found a few friends along the way, and we just worked together to grow it. So a lot of it was growing pains. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we found ways to do it. And we just we didn't know how to do it. We found people to ask and share their information. So.
Were they instantly welcoming to your concepts and your ideas, or did you feel like you had to push it a little bit? Or, I mean, just in general, did it feel like a welcoming idea? Were they pretty, into the whole concept?
Yeah, I think the therapists know, what sports does for an athlete that's faced, some adversity like we all have. So they're certainly on board. And then, you find new athletes and they're looking for an outlet. So, there's no doubt they're going to be on board. I think the biggest thing with adaptive sports is it's never the athletes or the volunteers, anything like that. They're into it. Our biggest struggles are always financially. It's just finding a way to build and support a program that can last. And, I know that's still a struggle today for us, but, I think that would be the biggest resistance is finding people that are willing to help, grow your program, financially, so that you can continue to do something long term, and it's not just something that comes up overnight and goes away just as quickly.
Oh, undoubtedly. I think we're all pretty keenly aware of the price of adaptive equipment. The rugby chairs, $10,000, it just everything. It seems like just go across the board, $10,000 is $10,000. And, it's just not cheap. It's a supply and demand world. So, ultimately at the end of the day, funding does have to take place to make these programs really happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's incredible. You just have to, equipment is one thing, and even if you, as individual athletes, kind of take on that responsibility yourself, as I think some of us undoubtedly should, as much as we can. Gosh, I mean, just hosting a tournament or renting getting some gym space to kind of learn to do what you want to do, for us is just such an uphill battle. And I hope more people understand, like, just the work that it takes to get programs off the ground, and some of the limitations we have are certainly financial based. So.
Hey, Tony, I know how proud you are of Midwest Adaptive Sports, and I want to give you a good shot to give them a plug and talk about the program there. But man, you've done so much from a developmental level. I mean, beyond just being a quality adaptive athlete, you started programs. So you go back there, you get the rugby team started, and then you get involved with basketball, youth basketball, both on a competition and a recreational level. You brought in a softball program, winter sports, skiing and tennis, and then the football program. How do you go about just getting all of these different programs started?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to take any credit for those other sports, because those were all run by other program directors and stuff. But I think what we've done here in Kansas City is we found a blueprint that we like, and that's been successful, and that's to find program directors that are athletes themselves, that have personal ties to those specific sports, personal passions in those, and we get those guys involved in helping build a program. And that's what we did with rugby. I know that was kind of the blueprint that wheelchair basketball did, and they were able to kind of find their athletes. They also did it with softball, and then once Midwest Adaptive Sports kind of got rolling, then we were able to just keep bringing people in that had a passion for each individual sport. Now, like I said, we've got football, and I think tennis is one of the newer programs that's followed a similar blueprint. So. I think it's just finding people that care about the programs enough to see them through, because there are difficulties or hardships. It's a struggle, especially us here in Kansas City. Midwest Adaptive Sports isn't it's not a highly funded program by any means. All of our board members, all of our program directors are all volunteer based. So it's guys that just love the sport. And when you get to that, then I think good things are going to happen. So
it sounds to me like, and it's pretty easy for me to sense that you feel like you're working with a pretty special core group of people at Midwest Adaptive Sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can take, a little bit of credit for the rugby program, because, that was my baby, but, we've done some pretty incredible things here as far as growing adaptive sports in a short amount of time. I can look back, even my injury was 16 years ago, coming on the eve of it, and to know where we were there, to where we are today, and then to see the future of where Midwest Adaptive Sports is going to be, and where Adaptive Sports in Kansas City is continuing to go. I think it's exciting. I think it's inspiring. I think it's all those things. So.
Tony, let's talk a little bit about the football program. Seems like, wheelchair football in general is taking off. It's not quite there. When you look at it in some ways, I almost see it sort of like rugby in the early days, where, you could have a tennis chair, a rugby chair, a basketball chair. So there's no real true conformity yet, but it seems like KC and the Rams, ironically, keep matching off in your guys' Super Bowl. But finally, you guys got over the top this past year. You beat the Bears in OT for the Super Bowl, 26-20. But talk about the football program and what you see, long term for the future of football in general.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is I know where Kansas City was one of the I think pilot programs. I think there was 4 teams that originally started within the league, and I think we were one of those 4, and I know just seeing the work that those guys put in to build that, was incredible to watch. And man, they've got a great team. They've got a great turnout with interested athletes here in Kansas City. They've reached out to a lot of people, and have covered a lot of ground as far as finding people within the Kansas City area and some of those surrounding areas from outsides of Missouri, Kansas, kind of our wheelhouse of players. And so I think I've done a great job of building a sustainable program that's going to be successful. I know our able-bodied Chiefs have done some great things as far as building a dynasty, and I know the wheelchair football team is trying to do the same. So hopefully they can continue that success. So
over the course of the 5 years or so that the sport's been around, have you seen advancements, and what have they been?
Yeah, I think the advancements are always within the equipment, right? So you see the game can advance with better equipment, better understanding, injury prevention, all of that for the individual athlete. And then once the game starts to advance and get speed up, then you can start changing some rules. But it's interesting to see because I know they did like you touched on is I know wheelchair football didn't really have necessarily a specific chair design, and I think that's changed now, and they're leaning more towards finding their own specific chairs and finding their way in the adaptive sports scene. So
I saw in 2024, Tony, you got the Spirit of Achievement Award from the United States Wheelchair Rugby Association, something you had to be very proud of. Just kind of lastly, I'm very impressed by what it is you do. You're very self-driven. You make things happen. You're one of those guys who just seems to make things happen. So what is the personal driving force behind Tony Durham?
I think for me, it's finding something outside of personal success. I mean, I am a ultimate competitor as much as anybody that's played with me or against me knows. I can be quite passionate out there on the court, whether that's good or bad. But I think for me, it's finding those things outside of your personal development. I hope that I'm growing as a person by helping others, and I hope that bringing them to a game that I love and showing them kind of a different community and a different style of life than maybe they envisioned seeing is important. I think, kind of giving those athletes that maybe have had a portion of their life taken away and they don't feel like they can be competitive again, I hope that I'm giving them an outlet or an opportunity to find that again. And I know how important that is for me personally. And I think that's just an amazing thing to watch the growth in somebody else and know that, hopefully you at least gave them some kind of boost along the way to get to their own personal goals. And I think that's a cool thing to see.
Well, I think you are, my friend. And thank you so much for what it is that you do. Look forward to seeing you back out on the road. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.